Hey, what's going on, everybody? Out there in the Facebook world, YouTube world, etc., etc. Anyway, um, I'm back because I want to talk about something real quick. I think that's very important to address and acknowledge. Um, I want to talk about workplace discrimination, harassment, discrimination in the workplace, so on and so forth. Um, I'm no stranger. I'm no stranger to discrimination in the workplace. So I want to address this topic today. I think it's a good topic, good subject matter to address. Um, real quick. Trying to make this brief because I'm having low memory issues on my recording device, and I'm not very patient and trying to free up memory. So anyway, I want to talk about discrimination in the workplace and how to recognize it, how to recognize it, um, how to address it, and the steps you could take to stand up for yourself and combat um, workplace discrimination. So, uh, I've dealt with a lot of discrimination, particularly in childcare. My years, throughout my career as a childcare provider and tutor, et cetera, whatever. Working in the system, whether it be in the classroom or in the daycare, whatever. I've dealt with my share of discrimination, and I know I know there's a lot of other men besides me who have too. So it's crucial that you know how to recognize harassment and discrimination in the workplace, so that you can be aware and astute on how to what the proper steps to take to deal with being discriminated against in the workplace. Um, I've experienced it mostly in childcare. I've had other jobs and I've done other things, but up to this point in my life, my work experience has been predominantly, mostly all regarding in the childcare field. So, a lot of my experiences have been have taught me a lot of lessons throughout the years. I'll talk about one in particular situation I had specifically where I had to sue an employer. I had to file a lawsuit for discrimination, obviously because of my gender. I was working at the New Britain Boys Club, New Britain Boys and Girls Club several years ago. And I was a victim of discrimination and mistreatment. um, Make a long story short, I recognized that I was being discriminated against, and I spoke up for myself. Um, and I went to the proper organization, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, if I'm not mistaken, is what it stands for. So if you ever dealing with this situation of discrimination or sexual harassment, you got to contact the EEOC, at least in Connecticut, in the city of Hartford, where I'm from. So you you need to be able to recognize and address harassment and discrimination in the workplace. Don't be scared. Okay, don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, regardless if you piss people off or the supervisor. Oh well, too bad, so sad. I don't give a shit. If I piss people off or ruffle somebody's feathers, I don't care. That's none of my business. It shouldn't be your business either. Okay? Stop being a sucker and stop being a doormat if you're in your job or anywhere. But I'm referring to job, workplace harassment and discrimination, things of that nature. Um, I was a child care staff at the New Britain Boys and Girls Club. Um, I was there full time as an assistant, um, and then suddenly my schedule went down to 1 day a week for no reason, for no apparent reason. I was scheduled 1 day a week for like 2 hours, and that's when and then there was other signs and other things too, like you know, one, I was the only male staff in there, so I was already outnumbered, and with the exception of a few people, like there was a few people who respected me and actually valued and appreciated me as a child care staff, but there was a lot of parents and other staff and faculty and people that didn't like me, and they didn't respect me. They would make stupid, silly comments and treat me like I'm inadequate, or why are you working here? Why do you want to work with kids? That's weird. That's blah blah blah, and it's creepy. Yeah, a lot of that too. Even a lot of people I still know to this day, you probably had them same sentiments about me, but I don't give a shit. That's none of my damn business. I like me, and I know what I'm capable of, and I know I know where my heart is at. So, and I've changed girls' diapers too. Okay, I've been an in-home babysitter also for children. Yeah, believe it or not, yeah. Um, I go through the same protocol as anyone else. I got to go through a background check. I got to submit fingerprints. I have to provide references. I got to take same mandatory, mandated reporter trainings as anyone else. So, racism and sexism, it still exists, people. It's not a mystery. And I tell people a lot of times my experiences, what I've been through, and they act dumbfounded, like, no way, really? No way. That's how it is. And I'm like, yeah, that's how it is. That's really how it is. I've had a child care director tell me I can't perform XYZ tasks anymore because Tom, Dick, and Harry and Bob and Sue, whoever, doesn't approve of me, and they don't like it. So, and I said, that's blatant discrimination. Whether you choose to recognize it or not. And I've been discriminated against in other child care facilities too. The YWCA. I've been through a handful of experiences from some extent to another. Being treated as like I'm less than. So you need to be able to recognize these things and not be afraid to stand up for yourself. Stick up for yourself. If you know you're not in the wrong and you haven't done anything unethical, or you haven't done anything to immoral or anything of that nature, bad coded conduct. If you cross your T's and dot your I's, I support you. I support you, and we should support each other. Especially in childcare, where we're overworked, we're underpaid. Male staff is not really respected, in the grand scheme of things. Like I said, with the exception of a few people. Some of you I know to this day, even some of the families I've worked with before, and you still cool with me, and I appreciate that. And I also recognize those who are distant and missing in action, so to speak. But it is what it is. I do what I do for me, for for my mom and my grandmother, to make my family proud, but also to do what I love doing, and that's teaching kids and being an integral part of children and families' lives. You got to be able to stick up for yourself and recognize when you're being mistreated or being discriminated. You have to, okay? Because when people around you, they'll zero in, they'll see it. Oh, Scott, he took the steps. He's filing a lawsuit against us. Like, he's not bullshitting. People take you seriously. That's because you take things seriously. You take the proper steps, proper protocol in certain situations. If you act silly and don't care, and you act oblivious and naive to shit, then people are gonna step all over you and think you're dumb. That's the reality of it. Okay, that's the reality, and I'm not fabricating anything. I'm not exaggerating. I filed a lawsuit against this particular place, and hopefully the staff there now, are different. That this particular lawsuit was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, perhaps. Again, so I filed a lawsuit, and I won. The judgment was in my favor. After the information I provided, and you know everything I stated and expressed was all in my favor, and the lawsuit was in my favor, and I won X amount of money, but it wasn't about the money. Okay, it wasn't about money. That was not my motive or my goal. My goal is about principles and standing up for yourself. This is what the civil rights movement was about, right? People had to stand up for themselves. People had bravery. They didn't care about opposition. They didn't care. I don't care about who I piss off. If I'm standing up for myself and I know I'm not in the wrong, I don't give a damn who you are. Like, you could be the CEO of the world. I don't care. Like, my philosophy is I give the same respect to the CEO as the janitor until you give me reason not to. I don't give a shit who you are, what your title is. Like, I've been so-called defiant and insubordinate for questioning my superiors and my supervisors, not out of disrespect or arrogance, but simply standing up for myself. Because I try to be a logical person, and I'm a team player, and I expect people around me to be a team player, and I'm not a pushover. So I'm not gonna tolerate any type of disrespect towards me or any kids that I've dealt with in my care. So this is something that we got to be able to recognize and not be afraid of. Especially sexual harassment too. I've been harassed and treated in ways by women where if I behaved in that manner or if I conducted myself the opposite way, it wouldn't be cute. It wouldn't be cool. It wouldn't be acceptable. Because I've worked with women who done, buying gifts and toys for certain kids, showing favoritism, and calling the kid's father on the phone, sexting them and sending half nude photos. If I was to do something like that, I would lose my job in a heartbeat. I would lose my job. They wouldn't allow me to work with kids ever again. I probably they would label me as an offender. I'm a sex offender and this and that. But when the tables are turned, when women do it, it's more. It's no big deal. It's okay. Just get over it. So I recognize the double standards too. And some of you might not agree with me and think I'm silly, but I don't give a shit. I've matured and I've grown in a lot of ways since I began working with children in 2006. I've been through a lot of experiences since then. I've dealt with a lot of discrimination, and I'm not gonna just be cool with it and be like, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that. So some of you are too complacent. You're too complacent. You got to have a backbone in this world, man. Especially in the workplace, because your employers don't give a shit about you. They might pretend, they might say, yeah, give you a good job, you get Employee of the Month award and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you're just as replaceable as anyone else. And I learned that the hard way. I used to come into work early. I would come and learn early, leave late, do more than I'm supposed to, exceed expectations. Nobody gives a shit. For the most part, nobody gives a damn. They just take advantage of you and make you do more and more anyway, so they could slack off, so they could do what they want to do, so they could kick their feet up and not do their job and chit chat with their friends. I had a friend. I was talking to my buddy the other day. He was telling me how he goes to pick up his kid from daycare, and the kid and the staff is just sitting there with their feet up, chit chatting, talking about what they did over the weekend. I've experienced it too. I've overheard stupid conversations while I'm on the clock and I'm trying to be the best me I can be, and then you want to discriminate me or like scrutinize every damn step I take or every word I say, the way I breathe. God forbid you can't do this, that, and the third. But oh, female staff seem to get away with certain things. I'm about fairness and equality. Even though we're not all equal, okay, we really aren't all equal. We all have differences. We all have different abilities. So to say we're all equal is absurd. But I treat people the same way I want to be treated, or I make an effort to. Again, so you being discriminated against, or harassed, or mistreated in any way, you got to write down. You have to write things down. Write down dates, times, names, what transpired, what was said. I've done that too, where I have a hostile environment or a coworker or staff that I don't like, and I try to get along with everybody, but some people are just straight up assholes, and certain people I don't want to be around, certain energies I don't want to be around. I really don't, and I don't have to. I'm not perfect, but I got sense, and I got ability to speak up for myself when I know I'm being wronged or mistreated. You gotta have those type of attributes, people. You have to. And you gotta teach your kids that, because you're gonna get stopped and railroaded every damn time you get. Okay? You can't be a fucking pushover in your job or anywhere else for that matter, because people are gonna walk all over you. That's just how it is. That's part of psychology. But you need to recognize when you're being discriminated against, when anyone else or children are being mistreated or withheld certain things, not, withholding nurturing and food and water and things like that. Those are forms of abuse too. Abuse isn't just physical smacks and bruises and punches. No, physical abuse comes in all types. There's verbal abuse, there's psychological abuse, there's neglect, harsh treatment. And it happens to adults too. Don't think it don't happen to men. What's up, man? Have a good day. Be safe. Anyway, I got to keep this short because I'm about to run out of memory. But again, if you're being discriminated in Connecticut, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. Okay. You can't just sit and idle, folks. You can't let things just slide because you're gonna get stomped. You're gonna get treated like a doormat. And what changes? Nothing changes when you don't speak up. When you just turn a blind eye to shit. You can't just turn a blind eye. You can't let people mistreat you. Stick up for yourself. Have some dignity and some self-respect. And also conduct yourself in that manner. All right, that's all I gotta say real quick. And I'm out. Enjoy your day. Be safe. Stay hydrated. Stay away from drugs and alcohol. Don't be drunk. Love yourself. Love your kids. Peace. I'm out.